Hello, my friends. I'm Chris Biffle, Coach B, proud director of Whole Brain Teaching, coming to you live today on July 3rd, 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Here is my co-host, who I'm happy to introduce, and the producer of this show. Weston, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Weston Lamb Costantino. I'm a gold certified whole brain teacher here in Wyoming, and I teach music. I'm excited to do this with Coach and Nancy today.
This is Nancy, our director of certification. She's our producer. Go, Nance.
Hi, everyone. I am Nancy Stoltenberg. I'm an executive board member for Whole Brain Teaching, and I'm down here in Southern California, excited to bring Whole Brain to you.
Very good. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is the brain on whole brain teaching. And this is chapter 4 in Whole Brain Teaching for Challenging Kids, the second edition. Weston, you've taken a peek at the second edition. Some people are thinking, what's the difference between the first and second edition? You've got 10 seconds. Go, my friend.
Thank you, Coach. Everything. The second edition is absolutely incredible. I love how the modules are pick and choose, use as you need. And it's just really, really user-friendly. And those graphics that come along with it are invaluable for the classroom teacher.
All right, my friends, what we're going to do is we're going to use whole brain teaching to teach you about the brain. We'll use whole brain teaching to teach you the brain. So Weston and I'll role play the teacher. Weston will role play the student. Here we go. Class.
Yes.
Thank you, dear class.
You're welcome, Coach B.
Mirror words.
Mirror words.
Today,
we're
going to learn about the brain.
We're going to learn about the brain.
Today,
we're
going to learn about the brain.
We're going to learn about the brain.
Now, everybody go along with us so you can learn this pattern. Weston is now going to teach his imaginary neighbor his coffee cup. He's going to teach what I just said. Teach.
Okay. Today, we are going to learn about the brain. Today, we are going to learn about the brain.
Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Here we have the magic circle, and we start with class, yes. We do thank you, you're welcome. Mirror words, and just as Weston did, we repeat the point twice, and then we do collaborative learning. We'll have lots of Zooms on this, and there's different configurations, but this is a basic way for brain-friendly instruction. Weston, talk about how kids of various ages respond to doing the magic circle.
Thank you, Coach. This is a great way to teach everything you teach. The systematic approach, getting the attention, using the manners, which our kids can always use more of, and then the short chunks of information in which they're going to turn and talk to their partner about is perfect.
So today's lesson, Weston, is the brain on whole brain teaching, and we're just talking about 3 areas of the brain. The first area is the prefrontal cortex. The second area is the motor cortex. And the third area is the visual cortex. These are graphics from the book, and you can also get the color slides from the book. Nancy will put in a link showing you where you can get the color slides. Of course, I didn't warn her that this is what she was going to do, but she's pretty wonderful. Weston, talk about the 3 things we're going to talk about today, and then we will start exploring them.
Thank you, Coach. We're going to learn 3 things today about the brain. We're going to learn about the prefrontal cortex, the motor cortex, and the visual cortex.
Now we said we were going to use the magic circle, and here's this jazzy scrolling diagram that shows you the magic circle. We're going to use the magic circle right now to teach you about the prefrontal cortex. All right. Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, dear class.
You're welcome, Coach B.
Mirror words.
Mirror words.
The prefrontal cortex
The prefrontal cortex
controls reasoning.
controls reasoning.
The prefrontal cortex
The prefrontal cortex
controls reasoning.
controls reasoning.
Everybody go along with Weston. Teach.
Okay. The prefrontal cortex controls reasoning. The prefrontal cortex controls reasoning.
Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, dear class.
You're welcome, Coach B.
Mirror words.
Mirror words.
Here's the gesture.
Here's the gesture.
Prefrontal cortex
Prefrontal cortex
controls reasoning.
controls reasoning.
Prefrontal cortex
Prefrontal cortex
controls reasoning.
controls reasoning.
Teach.
Okay. Prefrontal cortex controls reasoning. Prefrontal cortex controls reasoning.
Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, whenever you want to make a big point, we're going to do what we call hands and eyes. I'll say hands and eyes. Weston will say hands and eyes, and he'll lean in. Hands and eyes.
Hands and eyes.
Weston, I want you to understand that the prefrontal cortex does the hard thing when it's the right thing. Ho, 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 so important. The prefrontal cortex does the hard thing when it's the right thing. That is so important to remember. Weston, I want you to teach your neighbor about this crucial point about the prefrontal cortex. Teach.
Okay. The prefrontal cortex controls.
Class.
Yes.
Notice that hands and eyes. When kids are teaching each other, you're walking around the room doing an assessment. And if they can't say what you just said, you talk too long. So we start over. Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, dear class.
You're welcome, Coach B.
Mirror words.
Mirror words.
Prefrontal cortex
Prefrontal cortex
controls reasoning,
controls reasoning.
and it does the hard thing
And it does the hard thing
when it's the right thing.
when it's the right thing.
Always repeat twice. Prefrontal cortex
Prefrontal cortex
controls reasoning
controls reasoning
and does the hard thing
and does the hard thing
when it's the right thing.
when it's the right thing.
Teach.
Okay. The
Everybody teach your
prefrontal
neighbor.
cortex controls reasoning. It does the hard thing when it's the right thing. The prefrontal cortex controls reasoning. It does the hard thing when it's the right thing.
Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Nancy, if you get a chance to, post the first collection of notes. What we're doing, folks, is we're taking notes for you. You can just cut and copy right out of the comment section. All right. Let's talk about the motor cortex. Here we go, Weston. And let's take a look at the picture first. And all of these graphics are free and they're in Google Slides. So you can edit them. Here we go. Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, dear sweet class.
You're welcome, dear sweet Coach B.
Mirror words.
Mirror words.
Motor cortex
Motor cortex.
controls movement.
Controls movement.
Motor cortex
Motor cortex.
controls movement.
Controls movement.
Teach.
Okay. Motor cortex controls movement. Motor cortex controls movement. Motor
Class,
cortex.
class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hands and eyes.
Hands and eyes.
Now, this is a huge point. Weston, the motor cortex is the brain's most powerful learning region. If you learn to ride a bike when you're 6 years old and you don't ride for 50 years, what a sad life. But when you get on the bike again, you can still ride it because the information is in motor cortex. It's there automatically. You don't even have to recall it. Weston just explained back to me, you don't have to use class yet, just explain back to me the amazing miracle of the motor cortex. Go ahead.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
The motor cortex, what is amazing about the motor cortex is once you've learned how to ride the bike or write your name or use cursive, if you don't use it for a while and you come back maybe 20 years later, you haven't forgotten how to ride the bike. You haven't forgotten how to write your name or read cursive.
Very good. Hands and eyes.
Hands and eyes.
Now, Weston, there is no limit to the amount of information that can be stored in the motor cortex. If you know how to type, that's 26 bits of information, what all these fingers and stuff do. And then you learn to play tennis. You don't have an additional problem learning to play tennis because you know how to type. Motor cortex, an infinite repository of automatic memory. Oh, what if we could use that in class? Weston, talk to me about the power of the motor cortex if we get lessons in the motor cortex. Wait a second. We're putting information in the motor cortex right now with a magic circle. Oh, Weston, talk about that motor cortex and its power. Go.
Wow, Coach. The power of the motor cortex, it's infinite. We can put things in there. And just because we learned how to type doesn't mean we can't learn how to play tennis later. It's infinite. When we use our motor cortex, we can just pack in as much information as we can.
Very, very good. Nancy, if you wouldn't mind, put in some notes about the motor cortex. And now let us go on to the next part of our webcast, which is the visual cortex. Now, the visual cortex is the brain's largest learning region. Here we go, Weston, you and I. Class, class, class.
Yes.
Thank you, dear class.
You're welcome, dear Coach.
Mirror words.
Mirror words.
The visual cortex.
The visual cortex.
Back of the brain.
Back of the brain.
Controls seeing.
Controls seeing.
Visual cortex.
Visual cortex.
Back of the brain.
Back of the brain.
Controls seeing.
Controls seeing.
Teach.
Okay.
Go.
The visual cortex is the back of the brain and it controls vision. The visual cortex is the back of the brain and it controls vision. The
Class.
Yes.
Hands and eyes. Let's make another important point. Now, Weston, the visual cortex is the brain's largest area. In fact, some scientists call the brain the seeing brain. This is why you remember faces and not names. This is why the look of a video game or a movie is so crucial. We don't play black and white video games. We're not intrigued anymore by black and white movies because color is more visually stimulating. Now think about this, Weston. In fact, I'm going to go around the magic circle here. Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, dear sweet class.
You're welcome, dear sweet coach.
Mirror words.
Mirror words.
If we could activate the prefrontal cortex,
we could activate the prefrontal cortex,
which controls reasoning, with automatic memories
in
in the motor cortex that are visually stimulating, just like we're doing right now. What a lesson that would be. If we could activate the prefrontal cortex with motor cortex embedded memories and powerful visual stimulation, what a lesson that would be. Teach.
Okay, if we could activate the prefrontal cortex with reasoning using our motor cortex and gestures that are using our visual cortex with visually stimulating gestures and graphics, what a wonderful world that would be. If we could activate.
Class.
Yes.
Now, Weston, I want you to note that I've been using the magic circle, but sometimes I come in with hands and eyes. The magic circle is modular, and you can use any bits and pieces that you want. Nancy, if you wouldn't mind, please put in the visual cortex notes. And everybody, here is the long-awaited speed review. Watch Weston as he tries to make all the gestures. Wait until it starts over, and everybody make the gestures with Weston. You're using your visual cortex, your motor cortex, and your prefrontal cortex. Why? We should call it whole brain teaching. Go, Weston.
Class. Yes. Thank you, class. You're welcome. Mirror words. Teach. Okay. Prefrontal cortex, motor cortex, visual cortex.
Keep going, baby.
Class. Yes. Thank you, class. You're welcome. Teach. Okay. Prefrontal cortex, motor cortex, visual cortex.
Very good. Class.
Yes.
Now, my friends, we will be happy to take some questions from you. And we may even have time at the end of the show to play a new game called Golden Ticket Mania. It's so new, Weston's never played before. All right. Love to see some comments or questions. Here is Nancy's post on Chapter 4. All you got to do is cut and copy these from the comments section. Whoever's out there, we would love to hear from you. Here's Crystal Long. She says the new book is so full of so many amazing strategies to you. Well, good old Crystal, 10-finger woo, woo. Jenny Klein says, Magic Circle rocks. Someone else is a fan of Nancy. Nancy's the greatest. Of course, everyone's a fan of Nancy. And here is a friend from Iowa, Mary Rockefeller. Now, Lakidra, our specialist in inclusive learning, says, please describe the gestures. All right. The prefrontal cortex, we tap our forehead, we pound our fist in the palm. Our motor cortex, we rub our hand across the top of our head and we waggle our hands and arms. Visual cortex, we touch all across the back of our head and we pretend like we have binoculars on and make them go large and small. That was a great question from Lakidra. Any more questions, my friends? Here is our dear friend, Mary Hunt, who's becoming a regular. Welcome, Mary. A friend from South Carolina. Here we go. And it's dear Kyla. All right, my friends, a couple more notes. Here's the first big question. And I don't think Nancy or Weston knows the answer to this one. Why is WBT like whack-a-mole with giant moles? Here's why, my friends. You know the game whack-a-mole. Teaching is whack-a-mole, but as giant moles. One giant mole is, how do we get kids' attention all year long? That's a giant mole. Class, yes. Another giant mole is, how do we teach kids manners? Oh, it's a giant mole. Thank you and you're welcome all day long. Whack-a-mole. Another giant mole is, how do we engage kids' brains? Brain chunks with mirror words, that's a giant mole. Mirror words. How do we create engaging lessons? Prefrontal cortex, motor cortex, visual cortex, in the magic circle, giant mole. Magic circle. Of all of those giant moles, Weston, talk to us about which one is your favorite.
Thank you, Coach. It's hard to pick a favorite when you're whacking those moles, but definitely the brain engager. As you saw in our video, if the brain isn't engaged and the students aren't learning, we need to go back and we need to teach that again.
Very good. Now, Weston, never forget this. There are more connections normally from the emotions, way down here in the base of the brain, to the prefrontal cortex than vice versa. In other words, Weston, emotions control reason easier than reason controls emotions. Here's some evidence. Think about a baby. Baby is all emotions. They're laughing, they're crying, they're this and they're that, and it takes a while for the prefrontal cortex to develop, for the baby to begin to reason and do other things. Weston, ask me, how long does it take that baby to develop a prefrontal cortex? Just ask me that question, brother.
Coach, how long does it take for a baby to develop a prefrontal cortex?
I'll tell you, over 20 years. Weston, you may have noticed teenagers often do irrational things. Emotions are controlling reason. So do their parents. Weston, can I make one more point here?
You better.
All right. Never forget this, Weston. Video games and WBT reverse the brain's polarity. Reason guides emotions rather than emotions guiding reason. If you're doing this in a video game and your emotions are guiding your reason, you're not playing very well. If you're in a classroom and your emotions are guiding your reason, you're not playing very well. So when kids are playing video games, their brains are harmonized. Top side controlling bottom side. They're making decisions. They're controlling their passions. And that's what we do in whole brain teaching. That's why we call it a living video game. Explain that huge point with some excitement, Weston, because it's big.
So in video game and whole brain teaching, we reverse what the brain normally does. reason guides the emotions instead of emotions guiding the reason.
All right. It's time to play. It is time to play, my friends. Golden ticket. Here's how we play golden ticket. We have a sentence frame. Nancy, the sentence frame is, what I've learned about the brain that'll improve my teaching skills is blank. Nancy, anyone who answers that question or attempts to answer that question in the next 2 minutes, give them a link where they can cash in the golden ticket. Now, as we're waiting, Weston, how do you think you might, oh, here's Michelle Lake. She's a good one. You want to play the new game, Michelle? We're playing golden ticket right now. You have got to fill in the golden ticket blank. Oh, here's a great question. This is a golden ticket one. The golden ticket one is, oh, here are people filling it in. Veronica Byers, I need to activate all parts. Oh, there's a golden ticket right there, Nancy. I need to activate all parts of my student's brain continuously while I'm teaching small chunks of information using the magic circle. Golden ticket. Amber Goldberg, the motor cortex never forgets. Golden ticket. Here is Jennifer. I learned how each part of the brain relates to the magic circle and keeps students engaged. Golden ticket. Oh, there's just the golden tickets are flying out of the sky. If you ever watch American Idol, yeah, it's coming down. Facebook user says, I'm going to give short little bits to teach. How do you like that as a golden ticket? Joanne Cook, you couldn't be more correct. You must engage all parts of the brain. Nancy, good luck dropping all these golden tickets on people. Crystal Long, what I've learned about the brain that will improve my teaching, the WBT pluralizes learning by using multiple parts of the brain. Double golden ticket for Crystal Long. In fact, she's so high up in the whole brain teaching hierarchy, she's drops golden tickets on people. What I've learned about the brain that will help my teaching is the gestures and the repeats by myself and the students. Chunk info, not all at once. That's great. All right, my friends, we're keeping these short. This is just the first 3 parts of the brain. Well, let's do it right now. Everybody, show me Weston, don't help him. Show me prefrontal cortex. Show me motor cortex. Show me visual cortex. Show me class yes. Thank you, you're welcome. Mirror words. Teach okay. And which direction do you go around the magic circle, clockwise or counterclockwise? All that information is in your motor cortex. It's right there besides shoe tying. All right, next time, which is next week, we'll talk about 3 more parts of the brain. This is going to be 3 episodes. We're going to help you understand the brain, and especially, Weston, how to understand the brain of beloved rascals. God bless us all. See you down the road. Weston, you can bid everyone adieu.
Thank you so much, Coach. It was an amazing lesson. Thank you, guys.
And Nancy, you may say adios to your friends.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.